It's Patrick from Patrick and Friends Music Company, and today we're going to talk about our relative major and minor keys and scales. Keys and scales are two very connected ideas, and understanding your relative major and minor is one of the first steps for anyone looking to compose or write music. In our last video, we talked about the difference between major and minor chords, and this can help you grow a greater understanding of that, so make sure you check that video out. All right, let's get started, and let's start talking about our scales. We can compare major and minor scales in terms of what we call parallel or relative. Parallel is when you stay on the same root note, but you switch to either major or minor. So if you're an A minor and you go to A major, that's your parallel minor and major. If you go to C major and then go to C minor, that's your parallel major and minor. Relative major and minor is when you have two scales, one major, one minor, with different root notes, but they share the same exact notes. Our relative major and minor scales really depend on context. And to do this, we're going to talk about our C major scale and our A minor scale. These are two relative major and minor scales. So the notes in C major are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. Now, these are all the natural notes in the musical alphabet, so you can look at it as the white notes on piano, no sharps and no flats. Now, our A minor scale actually has these same exact 7 notes, except instead of going from C to C, it goes from A to A. So the notes are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and A. So they have the same exact notes. There is no difference, but the order the notes come in is what makes each have its unique characteristics and which makes one sound like major and one sound like minor. Like I said before, a lot of times when you hear this, it's going to depend on the context. When someone's playing a scale, it's usually during a melody or during a solo. And a lot of times you're going to have harmony behind you, so typically a chord progression. If there's a minor chord progression going on, that melody or solo is going to sound like it's in a minor scale. And if it's a major chord progression going on, it's going to sound like the melody or a solo is coming from a major scale. And to do this, we're going to play the same melody 2 times in a row, one with a minor progression and one with a major progression. For a minor progression, we're going to go from A minor to D minor to A minor, the 1-4-1 in the key of A minor. And the second progression, major progression, we're going to go from C major to F major to C major, the 1-4-1 in C major. Let's take a listen. The first time you hear that melody, you'd definitely be like, oh, that's from a minor scale. And the second time you'd be like, that's definitely from a major scale. So again, a lot of this depends on context. And in this case, a lot of it depends on the harmony that's going behind our melody or solo. There are a couple different ways to figure out what your relative major and minor scale are going to be. And the first way is to find the root by looking for it within the other scale. So let's look at our G minor scale. It's made up of the notes G, A, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, and G again repeated. Now, to find my major root, I go up 3 notes to the 3rd note in that scale. So G, A, B flat. What that means is that B flat is the root of our relative major scale. So that means our B flat major scale is going to be made up of the same notes as our G minor scale, but just starting and ending on B flat. So it's going to sound like this. Now to go from major to minor, what you have to do is go up to your 6th note in your major scale. So if I start in B flat and go up 6 notes, B flat, C, D, E flat, F, and G, I find my G, which we know is our relative minor root. Another great way to do this is to go up or down 3 half steps, and that means 3 frets on guitar. So let's find a C major and let's find the root. So the root's going to be C, and we can use the 8th fret of our low E string. Now, to find your minor root of your relative minor, we're going to go down 3 frets. So we're on the 5th fret, and that's the note A, so I know that my A minor is the relative minor of my C major. Now you can go down chromatically by going C, B, B flat, A to figure out what that note or root is. Now to go from minor to major, we do the opposite. We go up 3 frets. So let's look at F minor. and we can find an F on the first fret of our low E string. And now we have to go up 3 frets to find our relative major root. So we go to the 4th fret, and that note is A flat, meaning that our A flat major is the relative major scale of our F minor. And you can do this by going up chromatically. F, G flat, G, and A flat. Another great way to see this is actually through your first minor pentatonic shape. So if we go to our A minor pentatonic, our first position, and we play it up and down, it sounds like this. So we start and end on A, and that's what really makes it sound like A minor. However, if we actually start on the second note, which is the note C, 3 frets above our A, and we end on that same note, we're actually playing C major pentatonic, made up of the same notes, but it's our relative major. So let's try this. So same shape, different scale. Lastly, let's talk about our relative major and minor keys. Now, like I mentioned before, keys and scales are two very connected ideas. And what I mean is the notes in a minor key are the same exact notes in the corresponding natural minor scale. And the notes in a major key are the same notes as in the corresponding major scale. And this means that our relative major and minor keys can be figured out the same way we figured out our relative major and minor scales. So what this means is if you're in a major key and you want to go to the relative minor key, you go up to the 6th note of that major key, and that's the root of your relative minor key. And going from minor to major, you go up to the 3rd note in the minor key, and that's the root of your relative major key. So same exact thing as we did before. However, a lot of times when people talk about a song being in a specific key, they're referring to the harmony or chord progression that's going on. And what this means is that there's specific chords that are made up of the notes in a specific key, which is the same notes as the corresponding scale. Now, we're not going to go into how to figure out what these chords are because that's a whole lesson and a whole video in itself, but we're going to use these chords to show the relationship between our relative major and minor keys. The chords in the key of C major are C major being your 1, D minor being your 2, E minor your 3, F major your 4, G major your 5, A minor your 6, B diminished your 7th, and C major your 1. Now to get to your relative minor, we just go to our 6th chord, which you may have already figured out is the relative key A minor. So now we just shift all the chords. A minor becomes our 1 chord, B diminished becomes our 2, C major becomes our 3, D minor becomes our 4, E minor our 5, F major our 6, G major our 7, and then back to A minor as our 1 chord. Now the progression 1-4-1 in the key of A minor is A minor, D minor, A minor. And now in C major, it's C major, F major, C major. So these two keys share the same exact chords, but the order we play them and the stress we put on them is really what makes each have its unique sound. Now to really show this, what we're going to do is play 2 chord progressions using the same 4 different chords, but the first one's going to end and start on C major, and the second one's going to end and start on A minor. So let's go to our first progression. It's going to be C major, A minor, E minor, G major, and then back to C major. Now our second progression is going to be A minor, C major, G major, E minor, and then back to A minor. So the way we ordered these chords is what made our first progression sound like it's in the key of C major, and the second progression sound like it's in the key of A minor. This can seem very complex at times, but I think one of the first things to try to do is try to hear the difference between your relative major and minor keys and scales. Now, understanding the theory behind it and breaking it down can really help you do this because it can give you an understanding of what to listen for and what to look for. Now, once you get a hold of this, this can really help you with both your lead playing as well as your composition and writing. Now, I hope to see you in the next video, but in the meantime, happy practicing.